What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics podcast. We're hitting you with a quick news reaction. I'm joined by what I'd like to consider an all-star cast. I've got Mr. Jeff Clark, founder, head of CelticsBlog. We like to call him the blog father. And then we've got our resident superstar, cap expert, and all things NBA savant, Mr. Keith Smith. What's going on, guys?
How's it going, Adam?
Yeah, not what I expected to be doing this morning. I wasn't expecting a Celtics signing out of the blue here on a Friday morning, but here we are.
And that signing was somebody that I don't think any of us were expecting, right? So we've heard Dwight Howard, DeMarcus Cousins. We even saw some things floating around there about possibly going for Carmelo Anthony. And then out of the blue, Brad Stevens does what Brad Stevens does, just a shrewd, I'm going to take this guy. And in comes Blake Griffin. So before we even start looking at how this affects the team or the rotations, I just want everybody's initial, first 4 seconds of brainwaves after they saw that report.
Well, my first thought was, wait, what? And then the second thought was, Celtics fans are going to get really excited about this name, and I think we got to make sure that we understand that the Celtics are not going to be rolling in a Kia for him to be jumping over. I think Lucky's job is very safe in terms of the halftime entertainment. So he's a little bit more floor bound these days, but hey, he's a talented guy. He's forgot more about basketball than I'll know. So happy to have him on board.
Yeah, I think for me it was very similar. It was, that's interesting. And then sure, why not? I guess it doesn't, it's not going to hurt anything. I do think without getting too deep into it, this does show ownership's willingness to pay the tax. Which is good because even though this will be about a $1.8 million tax and cap hit initially with the penalties, it's going to be just call it roughly double that. So that's important. That we've got an ownership group that is that they've said, hey, we'll keep paying, we'll keep spending, and I think that's been proven this offseason, which is really good because there were definitely questions about that over the last few years.
So my first impressions, and then I really want to look at this cap stuff. My first impressions was Blake Griffin needs to be on the cover of, do you know the podcast by J.E. Skeets, No Dunks?
Mm-hmm.
So that should be Blake Griffin's podcast from here on out. He should be the co-host moving forwards. I do think that he gives you a body at least. He can rebound still. There was definitely a stretch when he was in Detroit where he could shoot the free ball quite consistently. Can he still do that now? Is he kind of the quintessential Gallo replacement where his mobility is gone, but he can just knock down a few shots and then use his size to be a presence on the glass? If he can do that for 1.8 million, it makes sense, right? But at the tax hit as well, you have to start saying to yourself, well, nobody who was available on the free agent market is really going to give you close to that $8 to $10 million range of impact. So when we look at all the guys available, was Blake Griffin the closest replacement that you were going to get to Gallinari in size, positional versatility, and being able to just knock down a few threes?
I think so. I think Carmelo Anthony would have been the more traditional offensive replacement for Gallo. I think he's a more consistent shooter. He's also much like Gallinari, is very good at really kind of taking smalls down and backing them down and shooting over them. Melo can still do that. I think the difference is Blake can defend a little bit at the 5. He's not a great defender by any means, but he's a pretty solid positional guy. When he plays enough, he's regularly near the top and charges taken in the league. Plus he's bulky, right? So he can still bang with other 5s. Melo's not going to do that. That's not what his game is. It's never been his game. So I think this team probably got into the early days of camp, probably some of those informal scrimmages, and looked and said, yeah, we need one more kind of big body here. And I think when the right people instantly go to, then why not DeMarcus Cousins? Why not Dwight Howard? Somebody like that. Well, those guys they can't really pass. Neither one of them are very good screeners. Neither one of them has, consistent shooting range. Cousins does a little bit, but Cousins can't move on defense at all anymore. Blake can at least get in front of guys on occasion. I know everybody's already queuing up, and I'm seeing all over Twitter the highlights of Jaylen Brown destroying him in last season's playoffs. Well, that was after Blake hadn't really played for about a month, and it's Jaylen Brown. Of course, he's going to destroy a guy like Blake Griffin on switches. So But overall, it's fine. It's not, I don't think this changes anything as far as title odds go or anything like that. It's just another veteran on the bench that Joe Mazzulla can turn to and say, all right, hey, get in there and give me 10, 15 minutes, and they'll probably be okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of a roll him out there and see what you get this on any given day. I think he's still got the potential to have an impact, a positive impact on a team on occasion. Like, he may come out and, get a couple charges, grab a couple rebounds, hit a 3-point shot or two, but then there's going to be stretches where he's not effective. So it's one of those things where he's had a long career. He wants to be a contender. He wants to be on a contender, contributing to a title team. Essentially, that's what he was trying to do with the Nets. So now here he is, and that kind of, as a side note, that kind of validifies the notion of, hey, build a great team and watch the veterans come. We'll see how that plays out in the future years as well. But I was thinking too, like, he's shown that he can shoot from outside. Like, granted, last year he only shot 26%, so that's not really draining him. But in the past, he's been hovering around 38 plus percent from outside. So I think it shows that he has the capability of hitting those shots. So again, just like with one of the younger guys at the end of the bench, it's like, roll him out there, see if he's going to make a positive impact, see if he does well in particular matchups, forces someone to change their rotations and bring in someone else. And when it's not working anymore, okay, yank him, get him out of there and bring in someone new.
So another thought I had, and this was kind of like a fleeting one at the time, was, does Blake Griffin being added to the roster hurt the chances of some of these young veterans that Brad Stevens is trying to bring through in training camp? Most notably, I can never pronounce his name, but is it Samanic? You've got Noah Vonleh. Those two are probably the two biggest losers here. Maybe Jake Layman as well. I've said that he's probably the most complete player in training camp. But if he can he's basically what you want Sam Hauser to be, but Sam Hauser to be better. So those three guys, in my opinion, this signing actually hurts their opportunities of making the final roster. But for Boston, it's definitely an upgrade because, like you say, it's a guy who's coming to try and win a championship, brings all those years of experience into the rotation. And that was a far better avenue to go down with everything that's happened over the last few months in terms of injuries and turnover, than bringing in another guy that's still trying to build that experience and that resume.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it hurts at least one guy's chances. But here again, like, Blake's shown he can do it in the past. A lot of these guys, they just haven't shown at the NBA level that they can do it. They've all had promise. They've all had, the potential. They just haven't shown that promise. So going with the guy that has that on his resume, that showed he can do it, and being able to plug and play that person, that I think that's just a more valuable asset at this time. But Keith, I know you've got some thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Adam and Jeff. I think it is very likely now someone who maybe had a pretty good chance at making the squad is now not going to. There's just the reality is, given where the tax bill is at, and then if you want to add money later on in the year via trade or something like that, you're probably not carrying 15 players right out of the gate. My guess is they're only going to carry 14, and they'll use Davison and Kabengele quite extensively on their two-way deals initially if they need to, until we start running into games played issues with them. But I think what we're really going to see here is now they're up to 13 players essentially on full or partially guaranteed deals. Luke Cornett, if you're starting running with the starting group at the opening training camp, you're not going anywhere, right? So we know he'll be there as well. Al Horford's deal might as well be fully guaranteed at this point. He's obviously not going anywhere. And now you have Blake Griffin. So that means they still have to add one more guy. You can only go under 14 for a couple weeks at a time. So they'll definitely break camp with 14 players. I'm just not sure they're going to go to 15. And then that becomes very interesting to see where they go with that 14th player. I've long assumed Noah Vonleh probably had a pretty good shot at making this final roster. I actually, my own personal projections, thought it was going to be Vonleh and Lehman. I thought those were the two guys because I thought they both filled needs for this team. I don't think both of them make it now, though. So we'll see where this goes from here. But it's definitely, I've already seen some speculation online of, well, maybe Griffin doesn't even make the team. He's signing a fully guaranteed deal. They feel good enough. He's going to be on the roster at least to open the year. Now, if we get to the holidays and he doesn't look very good and he can't hack it anymore, it's a minimum contract. It's just a tax it. You waive them and you move on.
And that leads us to another concern, right? Because you've just named a few different bigs. You named Luke Cornett, you named Al Horford, you named Blake Griffin. None of those three scream switchable defense to me. They just don't. So now it's like, okay, so are we looking at least until Robert Williams is back, whenever he comes back, are we looking at more of a drop defensive coverage? And at which point, where does Blake Griffin fit into that? Because Cornette's got the size, and Brad Stevens has always been so complimentary about his ability to go straight up when challenging shots instead of jumping into guys. You've got Al Horford that's just exceptional at pretty much anything he decides to put his mind to. And his defending via angles is fantastic. It's why he looks so ageless. And now you've got Blake Griffin that doesn't look ageless, but can still give you some size, right? So I'm just a bit like, I'm thinking that one of the biggest, most significant changes we're going to see in this early Mazzulla era is going to be that move away from that switchable defense, not via choice, but by personnel.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say that, the NBA is not kind to people who are not flexible. So no matter who was coming in, even if Robert Williams was 100% and Al Horford had taken some more youth serum that he's been storing away, we weren't going to be switching the whole time. I think you have to be able to do drop coverage. You have to be able to do, mixing, matching of those two as the situation demands, as matchups demand. And then throw in a little wrinkle of both switchable and drop. I mean, they're going to have to expand their repertoire. You can't just keep doing the same thing and expect the league's not going to catch up with you on it. So I fully expect them to do some more drop coverage. And it sounded a little bit like that's what they're trying to do a little bit heading into camp anyways. Even if it was, even if we were still with the coach who shall not be named. I mean, Keith, I'll hand it off to you in terms of the rest.
Yeah, I think, to kind of add on to what Jeff was saying, I do think we're going to see a lot of changes in the way they cover things on the defensive end. I do think, I just wrote this today in a piece I wrote about the rotation and lineups. I think what we might actually see them do is play there. So we remember, right, when this team took off last year, they moved Rob into kind of that off-ball baseline roamer role, where it was kind of, he was nominally defending the like weakest shooter on the other teams, but what he was really doing was everybody was switching around him while he covered the weak side corner, and then he came in to help regularly on whatever driver was there. I think you could put Al Horford into that role, have Cornette play the up big, so he's defending against the pick and rolls. Cornette's actually, he can move his feet just enough that he can recover a little bit. Yeah, he's not going to defend Steph Curry on a switch on an island. That's not going to happen. Nor anybody who can get really downhill. But then you put Horford in the Rob role and let him kind of roam. Plus, it keeps Horford from having to do the banging with the Joel Embiid type of centers and those kind of things. So I think we're going to see some of that. I think, obviously we're going to heavily see lineups that feature Horford and Grant Williams as the two bigs in the front court. I was surprised last year, that grouping along with Brown, Tatum, and Smart, that 5-man lineup was actually bad. It wasn't very good in the regular season or in the playoffs. They were negative in both cases. So that's a little odd there, but we'll see where that goes. Ultimately, there are not a lot of minutes to really draw definitive conclusions on. But I think with Griffin in the mix now, you're basically saying, hey, we're going to do the same sort of stuff. I think play Horford a little bit more off and away from the primary actions, let him function as the helper. Griffin comes in. probably plays similarly to the role Horford had last year, where it's you play up to touch, you help hold, and then everything scrambles and recovers around. It's just going to be the problems when those really good teams that draw those straight switches. That's going to be it. But that's where I think if you're Joe Mazzulla, you trust Tatum, Brown, Smart, and Horford. They'll get them scrambled out of that. They'll get it switched back. They'll get it covered, however they need to. It's just going to be against the very best teams where that could be an issue. But again, you're really talking. We got to get through the first 2-3 months of the season, and then things start to slot back to normal. And that's where if Blake Griffin becomes a 10 to 15 minute a night guy off the bench, you could do a lot worse.
Yeah, and remember too, like last year, the team essentially used the first 2 months to install a switching defense. Like that was the learning curve, and they actually did very well even early on in terms of their defensive rating and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of new wrinkles they install with this. I was also going to say too that fundamentally, two big things: Robert Williams going down with an injury and Malcolm Brogdon being added to the lineup. The shifting of the power dynamic goes from the double bigs to guard versatility. And so it's almost like, I was saying this before, like, anytime you're looking at a roster and you want to know, well, it's not just like take Robert Williams out and putting Luke Cornett. That's not how it works. You circle the top 7 players on your roster, maybe top 8, and then figure out how to best utilize those guys, and then you can then kind of go out to the 9th, 10th guys on the roster and incorporate them a little bit more, and then that's going to determine your rotations a lot more than something like, this is what worked before and we're plugging in a new person. So you're going to want to use Malcolm Brogdon a lot more. That means you're going to be guard heavy a lot of times, and that doesn't mean Brogdon's coming in and getting Pritchard minutes. He's coming in, he's getting Malcolm Brogdon minutes. So it'll be interesting to see how they change up the dynamic with that, and even at full strength, what that rotation looks like. It'll be very interesting, and even more so, I think, like I said, like with Robert Williams out, they're going to have to lean into this. I hesitate to call it full small ball, but leaning small, small adjacent.
Yeah, and we're just getting reporting now. It's just coming through from our buddy Jared Weiss that Luke Cornett has a sprained ankle and is going to be out a week or two. So that may be a little bit more urgency towards a signing like this with Blake Griffin, because if Cornett is out, then we're in a position where, you're really thin up front, and you definitely want to have something, because 2 weeks, that's almost right to the start of the regular season. We're only 18 days away from that first game. So if this is something that lingers, then so we'll see where it goes. My guess is, they'll more minutes for Grant Williams, at least initially, until Griffin's up to speed and ready to go. But all the reporting is he looked good in these workouts that teams went and watched him play. I know a couple other teams at least put him on their list, kind of their emergency list of guys where they were open if they needed. And here were the Celtics with a need, and maybe more of an urgent need than what we thought initially.
I think that with everything he's going to bring to you in short spurts, I'm not expecting fireworks. I'm not expecting Lob City Blake Griffin. But with what he gives you in short spurts, in terms of that size, the shooting, and as you said earlier, he's actually one of the better screeners that was available, which is always an underrated skill. You could do a lot worse, right? And I'm of the belief that some of the stuff that the Celtics did against the Warriors defensively, like playing 1-4, switching with 5 in that shallow drop, coming up to touch and then dropping. When I say shallow, it's so you're further away from the rim. That was actually quite successful in taking away drives off a lot of ball handlers. And I think that Blake's size and length will do fine there, along with Luke Cornett. And as you say, once Robert Williams comes back and things start slotting back together, I'm assuming they've sold Blake on the fact that your spot in the rotation will shrink as the season goes on. And then I just hope that everybody's symbiotic in there. Just we're willing to sacrifice minutes in order to try and get back to that finals.
Yeah, that's huge, right? You can't bring Blake Griffin in if he doesn't understand, hey, when Robert Williams is back, you're a 10-minute a night guy. And at this point in his career, I think he showed with the Nets too. He gets that, right? I actually, for all that we're beating up on him a little bit for his struggles defensively in that first round playoff series. The fact that he went from completely out of the rotation to when Steve Nash was just throwing stuff against the wall, he did give them good minutes. And I think to Jeff's point, he gave them those good minutes in those short bursts. Here with the Celtics, play him 5 minutes out of whack, maybe 2-3 times a game, you're probably getting the best out of him that you can get. I'll also say this too. It's become increasingly important, whether it was under Brad Stevens, under Ime Udoka, I would assume it'll continue under Joe Mazzulla. The bigs have to be able to pass. Otherwise, the offense just doesn't function the way they want it to, because that's how you are able to work and set up guys like Tatum and Brown to work a little bit off ball and work into their favorite spots to catch. Blake Griffin is one of the best passing bigs. Easily, he's probably the best one available on the market. So he'll slot right in there, and you can run a lot of the same offensive actions with him. Yes, he's not catching it 5 feet above the square like Rob, not anymore at this point in his career, but he can still run those same actions because he can still catch and finish around the basket.
Yeah, and circling back around to the point earlier too, like he's a veteran who's had deep playoff runs in the Western Conference, and we have a rookie head coach, and he's going to need someone he can rely on, like not just someone he just plugs in there and is learning on the job. He needs someone who he knows can understand the situation, is not overwhelmed by the circumstance. Yes, he's going to be sitting for weeks at a time, and then coming in and being asked to guard Joel Embiid, for crying out loud. But that's part of the game, and he'll be ready for it. He won't back down from it. He won't always perform as well as he used to, but he's got those short bursts where I think he can.
Anyone got any final thoughts before we let everybody get back to their days and start being upset about Luke Cornett? I can never pronounce his name right. Cornett.
Yeah,
Cornet.
that's where he openly says the Green Cornet nickname kind of falls apart because it's Cornett.
Yeah,
but he did say he likes it, so I'm still gonna call him the Green Cornet because I think that works. I think Jeff said it right off the top. One of my favorite sayings, I know Adam knows this, is I like to say guys are more name than game at some point in their career, and that's kind of what this is. But that doesn't mean Blake Griffin's completely washed up. And again, if he does turn out to be, all this was ownership money spent. This isn't probably they're not going to run him out there so much that they lose 10 games because of Blake Griffin or anything like that. If he's not working, they'll waive him, they'll move on, and they'll move on to whatever's next. So let's not overreact too much one way or another on this. This isn't Blake Griffin, former All-Star, but this also isn't Blake Griffin looks completely terrible. And if he is, they'll just waive him and move on.
I would have been a lot more sad if it was LaMarcus Aldridge we were discussing.
I honestly, the last thing I'll say is, for what this team currently needs, I think Blake Griffin is probably the best fit for what the roster looks like it's shaping up like it needs at the moment for the next few months.
And not to contradict you, Keith, but let's overreact. Let's have fun with this.
At
least it's basketball that we get to
but have fun with it, right? That's the key. Have fun with it. Let's not go maniac and then want to burn the guy's house down because he didn't play well, which that's going to happen too. I mean, that's the other end of overreact, right?
Sure.
So this is where Twitter needs to learn from Facebook, right? Because Facebook, you can do you can be is feeling sarcastic, so that everyone reads that post and they're like, it's sarcasm. Twitter's so deadpan. Like I get into arguments because I don't realize someone's joking all the time.
Well, that should just be my default, is sarcastic all the time. So.
And with that, everybody, I just want to say thank you to Jeff and Keith. This was the All-Star rotation, with myself being the third wheel. So I'm really grateful for you guys both taking the time. We should definitely do this again with CelticsBlog All-Stars. We need to bring Mr. Sai in here, and we'll get some other people rotating in and out as well. But for now, Blake Griffin is a Celtic. Who would have thought? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on our socials. Jeff at CelticsBlog, me at Adam Taylor NBA. And if you ain't following Keith by now, you're not a real basketball fan. He's got more followers than CelticsBlog, hasn't he? It's wild.
Put him on notifications, man.
That's just to make my mom happy. That's all.
Everybody have a great Friday.